Yeah, you can start, sure. Okay? All right. This is the last four paragraphs in this beautiful sikha that we're learning about Purim from the Rebbe. It's in the Kuti Sichas Chilek Vav, volume 6. And it's about Purim. The Rebbe says, interesting, Purim, we see three things about Purim. Three things about Purim that are not in any of the other holidays. Number one, it has a non-Jewish name. Purim. All the other holidays, Jewish holidays, have a Hebrew name. Shavuot, Sukkot, Chanukah, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Purim is a name it's a Persian word. It even says in the Megillah that Haman, he threw purs. It says pur hu hagoral. Pur is a lot or a dice, whatever, a die. So it's not a Jewish word. Number two, the word Purim is connected to a bad thing. Purim, those were the lots that Haman used in order to determine when to carry out his plan to exterminate all the Jews in one day. So it was sort of like a gas chamber, to call a holiday gas chamber day, or like in Egypt, the Jews were forced to work. Haman took all their blood, to call, the going out of Egypt blood day. You bathe in their blood, bathing day. It's ridiculous. Well, also to call Purim by the name that it has is also no less ridiculous. It's a bad name. Why did the rabbis pick this word to signify the holiday? It should be called Haman's Day. It should be called, Mordechai's Day, or Esther's Day, or Freedom Day. The third question, the Megillah is the only book in all of the 24 books, the holy books, the Torah, the prophets, all the writings, Psalms, etc., Proverbs, that doesn't contain the name of God. God's name is not mentioned once, not even referred to. And Mordechai said, let us all hope to God, and Esther said, let us pray to the Lord. Nothing like that whatsoever. God's name is not mentioned, not even alluded to. Some people say that every time it talks about Achashverosh, it's really referring to God, or it says Hamelech is referring to God, but that's not the simple meaning. That's not the simple meaning. Simply put, God's name is not in the whole entire. So the Rebbe asks why. Why? How can you explain this? So the Rebbe gives an explanation that really the Jewish people were the worst situation, the worst condition they had ever been in the history of the world. That Haman had the ability to destroy all the Jews. There was nowhere to run. And he wanted to run. It says Achashverosh ruled the whole world. Hodu Vadkush said he ruled the whole entire world. So the Jews had nowhere to run. Nowhere to run. And not only that, the Jew has no time to run. It was supposed to be all done in one day. Kill all the Jews in one day. And this came from this terrible decree was like one day after the Jews were in the best situation they'd ever been in. Esther was the queen of the world. Queen, king's wife. Mordechai was one of the chief advisors of the king. And so the Rebbe says, what can we see? What do we see? That even though that the Jews were in such a wonderful position, and they had, true, there was a terrible decree, but the Jews had political leverage. The queen was a Jew. The king didn't know it. And Mordechai was one of the king's advisors. Not only that, it says in the Megillah that just earlier Mordechai had discovered, he had uncovered a plot to kill the king. And he informed the king of it and saved the king's life, and the king knew it. So you'd think that should be how the Megillah went. The Megillah went that there stood up a terrible person called Haman, and he said, let's make a decree against the Jews. And suddenly Esther comes with Mordechai to the king and says, Your Majesty, we want to tell you something. First of all, I am a Jew. Mordechai should have said, Your Majesty, you forgot that I saved your life. I'm also a Jew. Have mercy on the Jews. Right? Rescind your terrible decree on the Jews. You're not going to get anything out of it. Argue him out of it. Right? Make a protest in front of all the Jews had attended his dinner. The Jews are your friends. We like you. We're for your own benefit. Haman is only caring about himself. They should have done something logical like that. Right? In fact, what it really did happen, Mordechai said, everybody fast. He put on sackcloth and ashes. Esther said, I'm also going to fast 3 days. In 3 days I'm going to everyone, and I'm going to fast also 3 days. And then after I fasted for 3 days without eating or sleep or drinking, I'm going to go in to see the king, and then I'll pray. And the king didn't call her. She could have arranged it somehow or other. Somebody could have whispered in the king's ear, what about seeing your wife? She's got something to tell you. No, the king didn't invite her. She came uninvited, and she was risking her life. Mordechai just said put on sackcloth. It didn't say fast. The idea of fasting came from Esther. But in the end, everybody fasted. Everybody, what was the point? What was the point of doing that? Mordechai should have used his political power. Esther just ruined her beauty by fasting for 3 days. Why? Because they realized, I'm just repeating what we learned yesterday, because they realized that this decree had nothing to do with Haman. Haman was only the hand of God. That God was angry at the Jewish people. They had all participated in the meal of Achashverosh, which was celebrating the end of the Jewish people, celebrating that the Mashiach was not going to come. There was not going to be a third temple. He had calculated the 70 years the Jews were supposed to be in exile. According to his calculation, it was already over. So they all celebrated with Achashverosh. They wanted Achashverosh to like them. And because of that, there was this terrible decree. Therefore, Haman had this success in convincing the king. What did they do? Esther and Mordechai, they realized what was going on. Esther said, the reason we're in this pickle is because we ate at the meal. No one eat for 3 days. Mordechai said, the reason that we're in such a terrible situation is because the Jews were happy with Achashverosh. They celebrated at his meal, put on sackcloth and ashes. Everybody should be mourning. And then Esther went in, and then there were the miracles of Purim. Zion. What can we learn from all this? What can we learn from all this? Beautiful story, beautiful lesson the Rebbe learns out how important the spiritual is, how important is the Jews being connected to God. But what can we learn from this now? I mean, there's no Haman standing and wants to destroy us. What can we learn? The teaching from this can be understood simply. At the time where there is difficulties to all the Jews, or even to one Jew, God forbid. Yeh Sovrim, some people say, שהפעילות העיקריות צריך להתבטא בחיפוש אמצעים ודרכי הטבע. You have to go and look for natural ways. God forbid a person is sick, first thing, go to the doctor. God forbid a person is poor, first thing is go get advice. And get advice, financial advice. What to do. Person is on other types of difficulties, foreclosing on his house, whatever it is, has trouble with his children, get a psychiatrist, get advice. Says that the Rebbe, Al-Kach, Mesaperet Lanu Megillah, and this, the Megillah explains us, Shezeu Shlav Sheni. That's true, right? You're having trouble with your wife, get a marriage counselor. You're having trouble with your teeth, go to a dentist. But that's number 2 thing you should do. It's not the first thing. Harishon, the first thing, Tzorech Liyod Chizuk Hitkashrut LeKodesh Baruch Hu. The first thing is you have to have an attachment to the Creator of the universe. Al Yedei Limud Torah, by learning Torah and strengthening in the commandments. Barak Az, and only then, Yesh L'Chapes, you should search. L'Hatzala, you should search in order to bring about this salvation or help or the alleviation from the problems. Then look for Levushia Tava. Then after that, go to the dentist, go to the doctor, go to the advisor, go to the Ve'im yinagu kach, and if you do so, Hari Hatzalah Nisit Shalamayla Miateva Te'achez B'Kol Levush TV Kol Shehush Yaseh. Then the salvation will grab on to, no matter what garment you make. No matter what garment you make. If God wants you to make you rich, He can make you rich by selling matches on the street. If God wants to, God forbid, that a person should be poor, then all the tricks and all the connections and all the things won't work. But you have to have your own efforts. You have to make a vessel. But the vessel is not the main thing. The main thing is the blessing inside of the vessel. Like I remember I was in Bnei Brak, I went into a store, and the owner of the store, well, a religious guy, a Ger Chassid or something. So he said something, I don't remember what the conversation was, but he said, that door is just a door to God's blessing. I opened up a store so that I'll have a door for God's blessing. If God wants to bless it, at least He's got a door that He can come in. If I haven't got a store, I haven't got anything, where's the blessing going to come from? Right? People aren't going to come into my house and start giving me money. But you have to have a store, you have to sell things, you have to be honest, you have to have good produce, you have to this, and then the blessing will come in. You want to make advertising, make advertising, but it's not cutthroat. I was once sitting on a plane, and I talked to the person sitting next to me, and he asked me what I do. I asked him what he does. He says, "You want to see what I do?" He opened up a newspaper. He says, "This is one of the advertisements from our company." So I looked. This was a long time. It was for beepers. There used to be a thing called beepers. People used to work the beeper phone. Pagers. And they're called beepers. Anyway, he said, so I looked at the advertisement, and underneath it said, if you want to be like this, buy, whatever is Joe's beepers or pages. So I looked, it was just a black picture. There was nothing there. I couldn't figure out what it was. So I said, look. As I looked, I said, you could see there was a very vague outline. You could see that it was a shark coming up from out of the depths. A shark coming up from out of the depths with his mouth open, with teeth. It was very vague. You could see, you can imagine it was in an unclear situation. You be like us. You want to be like one of these sharks. You can devour all of your competition. And I said, that's the company I work for. That's the company I work for. In other words, that's business. That's really business. You devour your enemies. You sneak up on them. You get them with some sort of a advertising trick they never would have dreamed of. You can you steal their products. I know people that were in business, and in business in Israel especially, it's very, very common. I don't know, especially in Israel, maybe in the whole world, but it's very, very common that workers are paid by other companies to steal information so that you get the jump on this other person. He's going to come out with a new product. You come out with it first. He's going to come out with a new advertising slogan, especially in advertising. The big thing in advertising is to have something new, fresh, different than the others. How my Coca-Cola is different from Pepsi-Cola. With people, dishonesty, simply dishonesty. But that's business, Shark eat shark, dog eat dog. Says the Rebbe, that's not so. Really, where does the business come from? It comes from God. But you have to make a vessel. Just as it is in regarding to all the Jewish people, so it is regarding every single individual on his own. Yehudi tzorich ladat, every Jew must know. Shehu kashur l'kodesh baruch hu, that he is attached to the Creator. She'enu mugbal chas v'shalom b'chukei teva, and the Creator is not limited in any of the laws of nature. Ochen, but tzorich lifol derech v'chol asher taseh. You have to make a natural vessel. You want to get healthy, it's okay to go to a doctor. Shabo tiyeh achizad lebrichat Hashem, brechach Hashem elokecha. Then God will send the blessing through the doctor. There's a story about this with the Baal Shem Tov, which maybe I'll tell it, we'll see. But since what you do, the business that you open, the degree that you attain, this is only a garment alone. It's a garment, a vessel for God's blessing. Moving, so it's understood simply. That where should be your main effort? Not in the garment, not in your business, not in going to the doctor. Receiving the blessing from God. Al yedei limud Torah, by means of learning Torah and doing the commandments. And then the blessing comes through the doctor and it comes through the business. Now, of course, it could very well be, listen, Bill Gates does not learn Torah and he doesn't do the commandments. And he's got, the $100 billion he has, maybe in his bad times he has only $15 billion. And so how can you explain that? So the answer is there's different types of money. A person that earns money, honestly, the money usually goes further. Usually goes further. And there are other explanations. Things don't always go. God is not what we call a ATM machine. It's not always, you do the commandments and God just, forks out the money. I don't understand. I opened up my wallet. I finished praying today and I need, $100. And I opened up my wallet and it's not there. Is what somebody stole your money? He says, no, it wasn't there beforehand either. I just figured I'd open it up and that it would be. Well, it doesn't really work that way, but sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. I've had myself experiences where I needed money, and suddenly, all of a sudden, somebody just came. They donated money to the yeshiva, or someone came along and said that they needed, they hired me to speak somewhere or to play somewhere from nowhere. Just from absolutely nowhere, just called me up. Sometimes I'll even ask the person, where did you hear about me? That you invited me to speak. I said, I don't know. I heard about you a couple months ago, a year ago, something like that. I figured it would be a good idea. But people said, maybe one of the best cases I can tell you, and there's a lot of cases like this. When I bought my house, I have a house in Kfar Chabad, and we bought it like 35 years ago, a long time ago, and I desperately needed $20,000 to close the deal. The whole house cost like $60,000, something like that, $65,000. Now it's worth a lot. 65. The person had to sell it. It was a whole amazing story about how it happened. Just in general, my wife, we needed a house very badly. We were in a couple places and they didn't work out. And my wife lectured somewhere, and the rabbi of that town came in, so they took her off the stage just for the rabbi to light the Hanukkah candles. And they said they were going to call her back up, and they didn't call her back up. She was in the middle of a lecture. They didn't call her up. She waited and waited. They didn't call her up. While she was waiting, she met this fellow from Kfar Chabad that desperately had to sell his house. And he had just lowered the price from like $100,000 to like $60,000 or something like that. He desperately needed the money. He became a rabbi in somewhere, and he really needed the money, and he'd been trying to sell his house for 2 years, something like that, and it just didn't. So my wife said, well, maybe we'll buy the house. So he said, good, needs the money. So we had a house in Bnei Brak, which that's also a big miracle how we bought that. Not to go into that, because there was a tremendous inflation once in Israel. And we bought it basically with nothing. Now we sold the house. We had $40,000. We needed $20,000. Where am I going to get the $20,000? I don't know. My parents weren't willing to give it. Suddenly, somebody comes up to me and says, listen, I got a big problem. What's the problem? He said, my father died 5 years ago, so I'm very sorry to hear. He left me $200,000. It's not such a big problem. It's not so bad. He said, yeah, they took a long time to free the money. So I said, well, I'm really sorry to hear. He said, but they just freed the money now. I said, that's very nice. What's the problem? He said, well, I wanted to make a loan association to give free loans. Gamach, it's called, free loans. I wanted 10% and put it up for, do you know how I do it? Listen, I said, I happen to know someone who needs a $20,000 loan. I happen to know somebody. He says, oh, okay. And he just gave me $20,000 and we bought the house. Made no sense. All of a sudden from nowhere. and this fellow's inheritance took such a long time and it dragged out just exactly for the time. I mean, it was obviously, a godly thing. How can you explain it? I mean, there's no other way you can explain it. So a person's going to say, come on, what God does you blessings? What are you, some sort of a big tzaddik or something like that? He says, no, the fact is God, we say, he cares for everybody. Zanu Fardis the call. And not only the Jewish people, also non-Jews as well. Right? God doesn't want stealing. He doesn't want murder in the world. It means he doesn't want non-Jews to steal or murder also. It's the 7 Noahide commandments. So if I don't steal, don't murder, then what am I going to do with my enemies? It's going to be the end of the mafia. You don't murder, you got to murder people. Don't steal people. God says, listen, you just take it easy, and if Tony gets you mad, you don't have to send, on Tony, whatever it is, Bambino or something to kill the guy. Right? You don't have to kill him right? Alfonso or something to kill him. You don't have to kill him. There's other ways to do it. God will take care of things. Don't worry about it. If you don't steal, things will be okay. Maybe you'll suffer, but in the end, all of mankind won't suffer, right? You can imagine, like in Russia, right? That somebody kills somebody in a business deal, so that wrecks the whole business. Everybody's afraid to do business. They find that this guy gets killed. If he wouldn't have killed him, so then there would be business. Things would work out. That's what the Rebbe is trying to say. You have to do business. You have to be involved in the world. God wants you to be. But you have to understand that that's the tip of the iceberg. The main thing is the blessing of God. We see the world and we don't see God. Says that's the point. That's exactly the point. That's why God put us here. So that we should start seeing God in the world. We should start seeing. Okay. Says, Keshem, just like She'adavarhu Lagabi Klal Yisrael, so it is in each and every person. You have to make a vessel, then God's blessing. But im mitzadadim et ikar kadei lechazek et lavush. But if you push away the main thing in order to make the garment stronger, you sink all of your time and all of your energy into your business, into your health, into your whatever it is. Harizeh domeh adam. This is like a person that wants to take money out of the bank when he hasn't got a proper check or he hasn't got enough money in the bank. But Rosh Hashanah, first of all, a person has to have the check. And first of all, he has to be sure that the check has got covering. We did this yesterday. But lahavdil mi shaliya kesev mi hazaav. But when we're talking about God, that God has all the money in the world, and after the person already has this in his hand, in other words, he's connected to Hashem, to God. He says, okay, I got the check, I'm doing Torah mitzvahs, give me money for my family, give me money for myself. Right? If I don't have a nice house, I can't invite guests. Please, God, that's what I want. Then, just do the smallest thing, and God will put a blessing on it. Okay? Very good. I'll tell you the story about the Baal Shem Tov. Once there was a man that was sick, dying. A Jew, a tremendous Talmudic scholar, a Kabbalist, rich man, he had everything, but he was dying. Not the best doctors you could get, no problem. But now his disease was getting very, very serious. So he brought the best professor and looked around. He had all the other professors he brought, but the best professor, the king's personal advisor, personal physician, comes in, looks at him, and says, why didn't you call me earlier? Situation, I don't think there's anything that can help. He said, listen, doctor, all the other doctors tried. They couldn't do anything. They all gave up. We heard that you're the best. He says, listen, I also heard that I'm the best. And the fact of the matter is, I am the king's doctor because of that. But here, I don't want to wreck my reputation, but you know what? I'll go out on a limb for you. I'll go out on a limb. They promised him all sorts of money also, whatever, tremendous amounts of money. I'll go out on a limb. So he writes a prescription, and he gives it to this boy. This says, run down to the drugstore and get this, but tell him to do it immediately. Here, take a big tip. He gives him $100 more than what the medicine cost. He runs down. As soon as he runs down, the child running down the stairs, he looks and he sees the man seems to have a little color in his face, a little bit. So he goes and he checks his pulse. The boy gets out to the street, yells at him, hello, come back up. Comes back up, tears up the... He says, give him this. Writes another prescription. The boy runs down. He looks at the man. He sees that this pulse is a little bit stronger. This repeats itself about 10 times until finally the man is already better. He's already healthy. So he says, this is a miracle. I don't know what happened over here. I didn't give you anything. How could it possibly be? So the man said, I want to tell you something. He said, years ago, I went to see the Baal Shem Tov. I heard this Baal Shem Tov was a very great man, everything like that. All of my friends, they're all misnagdim. They all hate the Baal Shem Tov. And they said, don't go, it's a fake. It's just a bluff. You're just wasting your time. It's not even Judaism. But I was curious. So I went and I saw it. And I said they were really right. There was really nothing there special. Nothing whatsoever. I didn't see idolatry, but... So I said to him, can you tell me anything? Can you say a word of wisdom? So he said, yes, you should know that doctors don't really heal. But every doctor has an angel with him. And that angel is what does the healing. So I said, okay, you have any Gemara to bring? You have a proof? You have something to bring? So that's it. So I left thinking this person is just a fool from the street, making up ideas and philosophizing and telling what. I just left it alone. But now I see what's going on. Here we called all of these other doctors. Oh, and the Baal Shem Tov said, a small doctor has a small angel, and a big doctor has a big angel. Now I see suddenly that you came in, and it must have been that your angel was what cured me, because you didn't do anything. So this doctor said, who is this Baal Shem Tov man? Who is this? Where does he live? Where does he live? So he tells him. He goes to see the Baal Shem Tov, and ends up this doctor comes back to Judaism. He had been a Jew, and he left Judaism because there was no way to get promotion. And he became the king's doctor, right? King's doctor as a Jew. Now he's heard the story that it wasn't not really him, that the physical things he did weren't the main thing. It was really the angel that was with him. It was God's power that was with him that did. Suddenly realized this is the proper way to look at the world. This is the okay. Good, Herschel. Nitan lachshov ches. You can think shekol amur la'el matim rak b'tekufa shabo Elokim mira begiloi. Maybe a person can think, okay, nice story, beautiful. You have to think about God, not now. This is relevant to the time when there was a holy temple, the time of Purim, that was between the first and the second temple. But now, come on, there's no temple and there's no this. And especially now that we're in the heels of the Mashiach. What does it mean, heels? Like a heel. The darkness is doubled and redoubled. Right? We say which Jews succeed. The further you get away from Judaism, the more you succeed. Right? Terrible intermarriage. That's the best of it, of the curses. Things that Jews do. Harikiv and Shakodesh Baruch, and they succeed. Since that God, Ba'atzmo, Gorim, Choshech, but since that God is the one that made this darkness, Harizeu, Hester, Amiti, Chas v'shalom. If so, this is really true darkness. God made real darkness. It's like it says the first of the 10 commandments is, I am God that took you out of Egypt. A person can say, that's the first of the 10 commandments. Should be better. I am God that creates Egypt. I create everything. It says, no. If God creates Egypt, he creates the difficulties, then that's a sign that it really should be impossible to get out. God created it. It's not just a fluke or a mirage. God is creating Egypt, and he really wanted Egypt to make trouble for the Jews. That doesn't make any sense, but that's the way it is. If so, you might think that this is a real, true, infinite concealment. That really everything that comes from above, Nimsu B'Ratzon Hashem, that God wants that nature should be separate from him. That's what God wants. If so, if God makes it that way, who am I to change it? Therefore, I have to, religious things I'll leave in the shul. But physical things I have to sink into my business. Business is business. The tshuva, the answer to this is, Shegam Zaman Purim, that also in the time of Purim, the Jews were also in exile. Mefuzar mefurad bein amim, like it says, they were scattered and confused among all of the non-Jews. Jews were scattered all over the place. And this was even after the miracle of Purim. Like it says in the Gemara, why don't we say Hallel on Purim? Why? Akate, because now Avde Achashverosh, and we are servants of Achashverosh. Even now we are servants of Achashverosh. Ubechol Zot Gam Az Lo Higil Hatzala B'Emtzeim Tivim. Nevertheless, even back then, when the Jews were also in a terrible exile, they did not rely only on normal paths of salvation. Ela al yedei shiavo al yedei shiavo ala kodesh baruch hu, but they went to God. Shiva, by means of returning to God. Tzumo alai, like Esther said, fast for me 3 days. Tet. That is what we can learn from this weird Persian name of Purim. Now we're going to start answering our questions. Why is this holiday called a non-Jewish name, Purim? The lashon of Parsi in the language of Persian language, Sharom is the Gezerah, which this also reminds us of the terrible decree of Haman. Mikach sheba Megillah and Muzkar Megillah, and also the fact that in the whole Megillah does not mention the name of God. Why? Because this is the message, the new message of Purim and of Megillas Esther. Okay, Herschel. Ovda Shebnei Israel, the fact that the Jewish people, Einam, are not Netunim, the Shlita Choki Ateva, the Jewish people are not under the laws of nature. This is not only in regard to Mili the Shemaya, heavenly things, buying tefillin, keeping Shabbat, then God really helps you. B'inyaneyim aruchnim, in the spiritual things, like getting saved, Hatzlacha, success, in learning Torah, Aliba the Emet, and truly learning Torah, being a big rabbi. You also have to have the help of God in order to learn Torah properly and to do commandments. But that's not the message. And not only in business, which is between Jewish people, Asher beineim hari lo shinu et lashonom, that the Jewish people did not change, says that didn't change their language. Right? They didn't change the language. Where does the word Purim come from then? Why is it a non-Jewish word? Elagam be'ische mischa shel Yehudim enu Yehudi. Even when a Jew does business with non-Jews. Lahavdil. Kasher hu ne'elatz ledaber lashon partzit. And he has to speak Persian. He has to speak Chinese, or he has to speak Russian, Spanish. Kevan shah halacha biadua, because it's known that Esav hates Yaakov. Non-Jews hate Jews. It's a law. There's some non-Jews that don't keep that law, but most of the Jews do it very well. They're very machmer in this law. Sha'az yitachen sha'agoy yechapes eitzot v'tachbolot shonot kenegdo. Then it could be that the non-Jew will search for all sorts of tricks against the Jews, like Haman did. He peeled Puri through lots. Av biyotam matzav shel chashash shebamakom laskir et shem shemayim. Even though he is a place where he's worried to mention the name of God. Yazkira goy la'avdel shem avodah zorah. The non-Jew will mention the name because he's worried that if he mentions the name of, he swears by the name of Hashem, right? I swear to God that I'm going to pay you. He's worried not to do it because maybe the non-Jew will swear by his idol. By his idol. That's a law, and if it's permissible to ask a goy to swear, right? You swear you're going to keep your promise to me, right? The non-Jew says, I'll pay you $200,000. As soon as I get the merchandise, I'll here take 100,000. I'll pay the under 100,000 when I get the merchandise. Are you promise me you'll do it? Sure, here I sign the thing. Will you swear to your God? Maybe it's not permissible to do that, right? Maybe it's not permissible. You're causing a non-Jew to mention the name of his God, idolatry. You're not supposed to encourage idolatry. Is it permissible or not? There's big laws about it, big arguments about that. The Ramah says yes, some people say yes, some people say no. Nitan lachshov, so you can think. So even when you're doing business and you have to be in the non-Jewish world, you can think. Since that the non-Jew, he is more under the laws of nature, in such a case, if so, what the non-Jew, the Jews, they directly get blessings from God. But here this non-Jew, he's got to pay me $100,000 when he gets it. He's not under the influence of God as so much as I am. Maybe God won't give him a blessing. Could be. We're doing business together. So the Jew might think, so I'm also, because I'm doing business with a non-Jew, so I'm also under the laws of nature. Al-Kach Nilmad says in the Purim, and from Megillas Esther, even when a Jew is dealing with Purim, language, Persian language, everything around him that he's dealing with is non-Jewish. And Esther, what's Esther? Concealment, haster aster. He doesn't see any godliness, he doesn't see any Judaism, he doesn't see any justice, he doesn't see anything. Allah, that you have to know that even in such a situation, yesh lamayla me'atever, there's a move nature. Here, take a simple example. Israel and the United Nations. Israel and the United Nations. United Nations curses us and condemns us and everything. And what do the Jews do? Nothing. What do? They try to prove that really it's not so, but the non-Jews don't know these proofs. It's not so. And after the proofs, they bring proofs that we're nice guys and we let the Palestinians do whatever. We give them land, we give them guns, we give them everything. It helps nothing. It doesn't help whatsoever. What do the Jews say? The Jews should just stand up and say, listen, we're leaving. We're getting out. We don't need you bums. No, Jews, we will never do such a thing like that. What's going to be with us? How could we leave? The Jews forget we're representatives of the creator of the universe who creates all those bums, who creates all those enemies. Don't be ashamed of yourself. We're talking Persian. We're in the middle of a Persian world, especially nowadays when Iran is every other day on the news. We're going to destroy Israel. Right? And what do the Israelis say? They don't really mean it. They're just angry at us. They had a bad day this morning. Woke up at the wrong side of the day. Ate some couscous that wasn't good. There was what is it? A poor hu agoral. Says the poor, that's what it means, Purim. Poor is a bad word? Really, the poor is something. Why did Haman throw these lots? Because he wanted to go above nature. He knew that the Jews, within nature, they couldn't be destroyed. Paro tried it, wouldn't work. Abraham stood against everybody. So Haman said, I'm going to go above nature, and because the Jews sinned, so now I can use this fact that they did the sins, and also I'll go above nature. Maybe I can get them then. Maybe I can get them. Says really the fact is, as this fact that God is concealed. And also the Jews are ruled by Persia. And they have to speak Persian. And it's Esther. God is concealed. And Haman uses a poor. But really all of this, haster, there is, how does it say in the Torah? Anochi hastir panai b'yomahu. God says, I will conceal my face on that day. I. Inside of this concealment is the I, Anochi. Hester, there's an Anochi. Hanala mikol Hashemot, the essence of God, which is above all names. Even above the name of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Higher than anything. Says that's why a Jew should know that no matter what situation he is, and no matter how the situation he is, that he still is with God. There were Jews, Viktor Frankl talks about this, there were Jews in the Holocaust that they became capos. In the capos. They sided, in the Holocaust, in the concentration camps, they went along with the Germans. And they would beat Jews also, some of them even more ruthlessly than the Germans would. And so Frankl says, you can't judge these people until you are put in the same situation and see how you act. the pressures were so great and the difficulties were so great. But nevertheless, how does a person stand up against this? How could it be that he stands up against it? How can it be that he resists and defies his own urges just to stay alive? How could it be that he does it? I mean, nowadays a person is a capital, it's disgusting, right? The fact is, it is disgusting. But the fact is, you can't really judge the person until you were there. How can you? So he says, a person in such a situation, he has to be connected to something that's higher than nature, something that's higher than human nature, or something that's higher than all nature. The Germans are winning. Germans are controlling everything. A normal Jew will say, they're the bosses. The Jews with God, there's no such thing. Maybe God left us. Who knows what? How can a person stay sane in a situation like that? How can he retain his Judaism? Like this Professor Viktor Frankl says, that if you ask me, more people became religious from the Holocaust than none. He said, what is it like? It's like a flame. If a flame is big, then when a big wind blows on it, then it makes the flame bigger. If the flame is small, it goes out. People that had a connection to God, even somewhat before the Holocaust, when the wind came, the storms came, so it just increased their faith. What do you mean increased their faith? They didn't pay attention to the world. They knew somehow or other this thing is going to, they didn't understand. Says the Rebbe, that's the only way. You have to know that Anochi, the essence of God, somehow or other is in all of these troubles and difficulties. And that's what's kept the Jewish people going, even though the whole world has been trying to destroy us since Abraham, 4,000 years. Kasher Yehudi Korah, when a Jew reads Megillas Esther, okay, Herschel, when a Jew reads the Megillas Esther, Shegam et Yanim Shel Hester, that even things which are concealed, even a double concealment, Hu Korah u'Makabel b'Megillah, he reads it in Megillah, means to be revealed. Milashin Gilui, but he sees in front of his eyes that everything is terrible. That's Hester. How can you think Megillah? It's all really, God is revealed. How? B'yodo, when he knows that also the poor, and also the poor that through Haman, Hu Agaral, when he knows that this poor, these lots that should be against him, is really a Goral. The calls Einu Lamafreya. It's not back then. It's also right now. You should know that this is also, everything somehow or other will come out for the blessing of us individually. And it's happening right now. Hari Azu Megia Legilui Mukhlat. Then he can reach a true revelation. Megillah. Megillah means Gilui. Hagoram L'Simcha Gadol Yoter, which causes the greatest happiness. Ad La'ofen Shel Ad Lo Yada, to a way that he doesn't even know anything else except for joy. Simcha Bilti Mugbalat, unlimited joy. I think I told you the story that I saw a man go by the Rebbe in dollars. A sort of a regular Jew, a guy without a beard, maybe he was 60, 70 years old. Maybe a Polish guy, maybe even somebody that had been through the Holocaust. He said, Rebbe, I want a blessing for happiness. I should be happy. And the Rebbe said, Amen. And he didn't move. Usually people, they go by Rebbe. And he said, Rebbe, I want to change the blessing. So the Rebbe smiled. In front of his hands like that. He said, Rebbe, I want a blessing that I should always have a good reason to be happy. And the Rebbe said, Amen. In other words, to be happy in Auschwitz is a big, amazing blessing. Amazing blessing. But who needs Auschwitz? It's better if we should just have good things and we can be happy, appreciate them, to appreciate good things. Hari Azo Megil, then he reveals to the highest revelations of happiness. Al Yedei Kach, by means of this, Somchim Gula Geula. We put one redemption next to the other one. Like in this year when there's two udders, so there's a big question when to make Purim. Should we make it in the first udder or in the second udder? The first udder is more logical to make it because the second udder is the additional one. So he says, no, the law is we make it in the Purim in the second udder because it's the redemption of Purim should be close to the redemption of Passover. Geula legeula, shemigula Purim, that from the redemption from Purim, Megim, we reach to Geula Atira, the future redemption. Hadoma legeula shel Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is similar to the redemption going out of Egypt. Sha'az, then, yeh b'layla k'yom ya'ir. Then the night will shine like the day. That even the darkness of exile, will realize that it was really a wonderful thing. It was somehow or other all for the best. How that's going to be, I have no idea. Choshech shalayla, even the darkness of night will shine. Kafisha Megillas Esther, because in the Megillas Esther, also the concealment was transformed into revelation. When? In the coming of the Mashiach Tzidkenu, they should come and redeem us all immediately. So it all depends on our attitude. And our attitude all depends on how we view the world and God's taking care of us. Then we can transform even the worst concealment into the best revelation, just by thinking positive and remembering that it's really Hashem inside of everything in the world. Even though at times it's very, very difficult to do, but it's the truth. And by means of seeing this truth, we can actually change the world to reveal the inside, turn everything inside out with the true redemption, with the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach. Now,